Conversations with Nicole. Let's talk about it. Tell me all about it. I'm here. I wanna know what's on your mind. Ooh, the world needs to hear from you, and I'm so glad to have a conversation to reach the nation. And it's all about you. We'll help each other to discover innovative ways to positively change the world. Let's talk about. Let's talk about. Yeah. Let's talk about conversations with Nicole.
Greetings. Happy Wednesday. Welcome to Conversations with Nicole. I am Nicole Everett, your host. And Conversations with Nicole is a talk show based in Tallahassee, Florida, focused on connecting the community through conversations. And today is what I call Wellness Wednesday, which is an opportunity for you, me, and my guests to chat about whatever it is we want to chat about. And today we are talking about empowering emerging adults with my very special guest, Mr. Gary Rush Jr., who is not only a social work expert, but is also the mayor of Gretna, which is in the county of Quincy, which is right next to Tallahassee, Leon County. So he's also a Rattler. Shout out to the Rattlers in the house. But I'm super excited and delighted to have him here with me tonight. But before I bring him on, I need to hear from you. Where are you tuning in from? We are live on Facebook, on YouTube, and on LinkedIn, and this is an interactive conversation. So your questions, your comments are welcome. This is an opportunity for us to engage with one another and a safe space for us to chat amongst ourselves. So we want to hear from you. If you will, in the comments, enter your city, your state, so we can give you a shout out. Again, this is an interactive live. So please tag a friend, tag a neighbor, let them know they need to be on here. We're talking about empowering emerging adults. You probably wonder, what is an emerging adult? Well, we're going to tell you in just a little bit. So we are wrapping up the month. This is our last show for March, but this is also Social Work Awareness Month. And hopefully Gary will talk a little bit about that since he is a social worker. So I see BK is on with us in Tallahassee, Florida. Thank you for being here. And so I know there'll be some more folks joining us in just a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and share some of Gary's bio. Mr. Gary Russ Jr. is a native of Gaston County, Florida, where he serves as the mayor of the city of Gretna. Gary is a Master of Social Work graduate of the Florida Agricultural and Mechanical University, Go Rattlers. He currently serves as the volunteer coordinator of the Family and Community Engagement Department with the Gadsden County School District, coordinating services related to truancy, home, virtual education, and families in transition. He also continues to serve his community through active membership in the illustrious Alex L. Dixon Lodge, number 640 of International Free and Accepted Modern Masons, and the Gadsden County chapter of the FAMU National Alumni Association, where he serves as the chairperson of the Governmental Relations Committee. Additionally, he participates on multiple advisory boards and committees, including serving as a District 2 director of the Florida League of Mayors, a member of the Florida Black Caucus of local elected officials, say that 3 times fast, a representative on Florida League of Cities, Transportation and Intergovernmental Relations Legislative Committee, an advocate on the Gadsden County Development Council Strategic Leadership Team, as well as the Deputy Director for Region 1 of the Florida LGBTQ plus Democratic Caucus. Mayor Gary Russ's aspiration in life is to be an influential vessel of change that strives for the betterment, empowerment, and continued success of his community. His life motto is to accept nothing less than the best, and lives by the words of the great Malcolm X. Education is the passport to the future. The future belongs to those who prepare for it today. Y'all help me welcome Mr. Gary Rush Jr.
Hello, hello, hello.
Hey, welcome, welcome. How you doing tonight?
I'm well. Thank you for the invitation. It is such a pleasure to be here this evening.
Indeed, indeed. So you and I met on, well, we met before we really met. I'm not gonna go into what that is, but somebody tagged you or something on Facebook, and I was like, "Oh, I need to meet this Gary Rush Jr. Does mental health." So, and then I realized it was you, and I was like, "Oh, okay, cool." So here you are. So
Yes, ma'am.
glad to have you. Glad to have you. So, Gary, who is Gary Rush Jr.? Not what you do, but who are you?
Oh, Gary Rush Jr. I am a God-fearing man who believes that hard work pays off. I am a fiance. I am a brother, a devoted son, an uncle. I am a friend and a loving creature that I think has been placed here to kind of bring about God's business on earth. Is that is showing love to all mankind, and He's I've been placed in certain positions and certain titles to be able to do it quite efficiently and effective. I enjoy working out, even though I could do it a little more. I love attending church, singing in the choir. I love spending time with family. I'm excited about Sunday and Easter and my aunt, who is one of the best cooks around, if I had to say so. So I enjoy family. I enjoy traveling. I'm excited about the trip that I'm taking in June to Aruba.
Oh,
So on top of all of the hard work that I put into the community, I try to make sure that I take time to again take care of Gary, and that's by doing all those wonderful things to include reading and meditating. Oh my God, meditation is awesome.
it is. It is. It is. I got a little of that just before the show, so I'm feeling refreshed right now after a long day. So yes, that is very, very important. And
Yes.
so, talk a little bit about your journey to get your master's in social work. Just briefly, kind of how you got involved in that space.
Okay, so I got my bachelor's from University of South Florida in psychology. Doing the transition between the years maybe 2010 to 2016, life began to life.
Mhm.
So I worked in a variety of mental health, behavioral health spaces, to include Capital Regional Medical Center, Behavioral Health, Tallahassee Memorial Healthcare Behavioral Health Center, and the last job before I went into education was Florida State Hospital.
Mhm.
So during my transition, I did experience a good spat, about 3 years of depression myself. So working in the mental health field, while I was hired to be working in and helping others, I was
Mhm.
in a sense also
Helping
helping
yourself.
myself.
Mhm.
So during that time at Florida State Hospital, it was like it dropped in my spirit that I needed to move into the classroom. I was back in the community that I grew up in and that I had invested so much into my life. I felt it not robbery to go and move into education.
Okay.
It, while I was in the classroom, it was quite a challenge, fulfilling challenge, I would say.
Okay.
So I started in the classroom around 2018.
Mhm.
So as a new educator, it was quite tough to maneuver not only the curriculum and providing instruction, but also managing the variety of behaviors,
Mhm.
personalities, attitudes, and on top of all of the systemic barriers that were being faced by the systems as well as the students. So throughout the 5 years in the classroom, it I was supposed to, if I would say, move into mental health counseling because that was where I was headed. I wanted to be a therapist. I wanted to be able to diagnose and help with those diagnoses.
Gotcha.
So I began to do a little research,
Okay.
and FAMU came to mind. It
Okay.
was I was looking into that mental health counseling degree, But I started doing some research, and I was like, social work would give me the tools and the skills to be able to maneuver multiple spaces and sectors, and I can be able to still diverge into the mental health and behavioral health, but I also be able to change the systems by which people maneuver and how those systems are facilitated. And I ran across FAMU MSW program, and when I enrolled in the heat of COVID in 2020, it changed my life
Nice,
for the best.
nice,
And
nice,
I
nice.
actually just spoke at a speaker series not too long ago, um, at FAMU with my in our MSW department. So it
Nice.
took some self revelation and reflection to get to the point of actually enrolling,
Mm-hmm.
and I was excited that I did.
Indeed, indeed. And so, and congratulations on all that you have done, especially
Thank you.
during the midst of the pandemic and becoming mayor of Gretna, which that's a whole nother show. Go into all of that. But it is, as you brought to my attention, social work awareness month, appreciation month. So
Social
tell
worker awareness month.
awareness month. So tell me why that's important to you.
It is important to me because not only does it take an opportunity to empower social workers, it also sheds a light on the work that the social workers do.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that COVID gave a much deeper appreciation for teachers and social workers, because when the world was shut down, your teachers still had to work,
Yep.
whether it was virtual, and when we did go back into the classroom, we would put it in the hard work. But also, it was those social workers that went out and found those kids that hadn't made it back from COVID. It
Mm-hmm.
was your social workers that went out and did those needs assessments in those communities to see what resources do those communities need. It was your social workers that was advocating for the social services that came through that COVID relief fund. It was the social workers that keep the people and the systems working and running effectively. So taking the time to appreciate social workers is something that I've grown a deeper love for, not only as I'm a social worker, but being able to matriculate through the MSW program with some phenomenal social workers and to work with and under some phenomenal social workers, it
Mm-hmm.
has been a pleasure. And I think everyone should take the time out to find a social worker, thank a social worker,
Yes.
appreciate a social worker.
Absolutely. Well, we thank you, social worker, all that you have done and continue to do. And as you have so eloquently stated, yes, it was the social workers that were in the trenches during the pandemic while we were socially distancing and seeking out those young people and making sure that they were taken care of, while were in place. So again, kudos to the profession, kudos to you and all that do this very important work. So we have lots and lots of folks that have joined us. I definitely want to acknowledge them. Miss Rakia here in Tallahassee, thank you for being here. Mr. Quasi, Brother Quasi in Atlanta, peace and blessings. Thank you for being here. Dr. Monica, she says,
Dr. Hey, that's one of my coworkers. That's a fellow social worker.
yes, yes, yes. She said, "Thank you, Brother Man. Thank you for being here, Dr. Monica. My mom down in Miami. Thank you for being here, Mom. Miss Sheila Williams. Says,
One
hi.
of my first teachers, Head Start teacher.
Oh my gosh. Wow. She said, proud of you, Gary. Yes. All right. Tracy Golay here in Tallahassee. Mr. Warren Cave. Thank you for being here, my brother. Edwina here in Tallahassee. Thank you for being here. Tommy B. Thank you for being here. He's one of my schoolmates. Ozzy, who is a clinician in Virginia Beach, Virginia, and he was on the show on Monday.
Okay.
Shanita, thank you.
That's mom.
That's mom. Nice.
Yes.
Hey, mom, being here. Appreciate you. She put Gretna, Florida. Love it. Here. All right. And my cousin Rennie down in South Florida who is an educator. Thank you for being here, Rennie. Rennie says she just pulled up in a driveway. So appreciate you being here, Rennie.
Thank you.
All right. So we are talking about empowering emerging adults. Empowering emerging adults. So let's talk a little bit about what an emerging adult is so that we'll have a frame of reference.
Okay, so an emerging adult is ages 18 to 25. So this is a phase in life where Erickson, with the theory of psychosocial development, he says that we're kind of negotiating these new relationships from teenage and adolescence to kind of maneuvering into adulthood. And it wasn't until one I lived the experience and then came back and through my MSW kind of did some deep diving into it, where I found out it's a slew of things that is happening to these emerging adults that I now see that we didn't really appreciate, didn't take the time to kind of empower, because they're dealing with instability. Oh, I was once a child, now I'm an adult, and I'm in this thing called world. What am I supposed to be doing? I'm trying to figure out who am I. And if I can use myself for example, when I graduated in 2007 from East Gaston High School, I was class president, number 4 in my class. But by the time I made it to USF and outside of my Gaston County bubble, I'm like, oh my God, I don't know if I'm really prepared as much as I thought I was for
Mhm,
this.
mhm,
And it's also a time of self-focus, but on top of all of those stigmas or outside factors, it's hard to focus on self. And now we have this emergence of social media. So it may be to a point where I don't even have time or the effort or energy to focus on myself because I'm focusing on what's going on in so many other people's life when I pick up my phone, and it
mhm,
seems so amazing what everybody else is doing, and here I am sitting trying to figure out who I am, what are the possibilities before me. So it's a stage in life where I'm trying to figure out what's really going on,
mhm.
what I really have to do with myself.
So I want to pose a question to the viewers. So please, again, this is a safe space and an open conversation. How many of you currently are either have emerging adults in your household or are engaged with emerging adults on a regular basis? And that could be in an educational setting or in a work setting or at church or just in the community in general. Let us know in the comment. Give me a raised hand, a church finger, something in the comment. Let us know. Let us know. I'm super curious about that. And while that's happening, I want to talk to you, Gary, about
Mhm.
why you think emerging adults are I mean, you kind of mentioned it in your overview just now, but I mean, we got generations of adults coming up. Like,
Mhm.
became an adult, her mama became an adult, her mama's mama became an adult. Like, what what's the big deal, right? What's the big
Mhm.
deal now about like why we have to empower these adults? Because people been adulting forever.
Forever. I think because the way society has shifted over, I could say maybe 50 years, because 50 years ago, once you finished high school, you were going to get out, you were going to get a job, you were going to start a family, you were going to go buy a home, and you were going to sail into retirement. So, but over the 50 years, a lot of changes have come about in the family dynamics, in the workforce.
Mhm.
We had COVID. COVID is a factor in itself.
Mhm.
So there are a lot of expectations of these emerging adults that have shifted. But as I stated earlier, I don't think the the conversations and the safe space for that emerging individual to find him or herself has
Mhm.
been as embraced as the change overall. And I think that has put a wedge between all of those other generations of adults and this emerging generation, because I'm 35. So I'm I think I just made it over the hump of emerging adults and finally
Okay.
starting to figure some things out.
Mhm.
But I don't I wish there was more space for us to be okay with listening and having an open, honest conversation with these emerging adults about our lived experiences. Because a lot of the lived experience we have as adults,
Okay.
we we are not sharing them with these emerging adults. One, maybe it may be because we may be ashamed of what we had to go through to be where we are. We
Mhm.
may feel too achieved or too established to go and invest in a youth, or we may not have that mechanism or that a way to reach them.
So you bring up a point that you and I actually previously discussed.
Mhm.
That was a lack of knowledge of history. And that lack of knowledge of history, and I hope like the adult as you called us, the adults hear this, like hear me when I'm telling you this. Storytelling is so important. The oral tradition of telling, sharing stories are so important. And while you may want to hold these stories close to your chest, it helps the young people identify with themselves. It helps them to know that they're not alone and somebody else is going through a similar situation that they have gone through.
Mhm.
So when I tell y'all we need to talk to the young people and hold space for them and share our stories with them, I mean, I can't like share that enough, but we got to do that, y'all. We got to.
Mhm.
A few people chiming in. Warren Cave, he said, thanks, Mayor Russ. I remember in 2021, no, 2002, I used to call myself the Advic social worker because I wanted to be a social worker for addicts and ex-convicts. I still do my part-time with my ministry, and we
Mhm.
appreciate you
Definitely appreciate that.
for doing that work. All right. Tommy raised his hand, so he is dealing with an emerging adult. All right. Thank you for sharing that, Tommy. Miss Lisa Myrick has joined us. She said hello. Mayor Russ
Fellow
and
social worker.
yes, and Camry Floyd is on with us as well. So she said
Principal Floyd.
yes. All right. So I think that's the first point really is like the importance of sharing stories and the importance of the oral tradition, the importance of history, sharing our history, sharing the history of our ancestors. So it may even be our, grandmother who has passed on or a great aunt or uncle who has passed on, but those stories, they're valuable. They
Most
mean
definitely.
something, and we gotta share them. Miss Jeanette Tullis down in Miami Gardens has joined us as well. Thank you for being here. All right, so like you said, holding this space, having those opportunities to listen to the young people, and for them to be able to listen to us. I think that is very, very important.
Most definitely.
Okay. All right. So what else? What give me something else. What
And we see, when we see this population, we see a sense of, as I stated in our other conversation, a sense of entitlement and laziness.
mhm.
And I think those again goes back to our expectations, as well as some stereotypes that we may see them as being selfish, but we don't have that space to understand why they are exhibiting the way that they are. They
Mm,
may not have had someone to have that space for them to fully express themselves. They may not have someone who they feel would allow them to be honest and raw, because the adults, you can't say certain stuff and you can't give me certain attitudes when having a conversation with me. And I think it's a gift and a curse for this population, because they're very unapologetic. But
Mm-hmm.
sometimes they need to have a little humility and be apologetic. So I think what we see is them processing themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And once we start, one, we have to identify. We need to start doing those quick needs assessments. When we see this, for instance, in the classrooms or in the school, when we see this troubled child, this child that is always angry, this child that is always lashing out, the
Mm-hmm.
one that may be cursing adults, how we took the time to see what's the backstory, what what may this child be dealing with?
Mm-hmm.
Does this child have a comforting home setting where they
Right.
feel safe and secure? And over the years, I've come to understand that school is a big safe space for a lot of students
Mm-hmm.
and adults, because it's a space for you to be okay with growing and expanding and learning and meeting new people. And I think that is also a systemic barrier that we, as the adults and the leaders of these systems, are going to kind of have to kind of diminish or mold into a different form, because as I said in our conversation, this is not our future, this is the current, this is our present. So if we're not preparing the way, in a sense, if we are not training them up in the way they should go.
So you have said a lot. Let me acknowledge a few folks before I respond. We got Sharika Hyman. She said, "Mary."
Auntie.
Okay, that's Auntie. Thank you for being here. Princess has joined us. Thank you for being here, Princess. And Princess also said that processing themselves, but fail to realize they have a lot to learn about life,
Most definitely.
especially when times get hard. So, Princess, that's a whole look. That's a whole show by itself. But I'm a touch on that as well. And Miss Shirley Wilson just joined us too. So thank you for being here, Shirley. Listen, y'all, please like and share. I do a horrible job of that. Please like, share, tag somebody, tell me to be on here, because this is a very important conversation. We are talking about empowering emerging adults. But your comment about that entitlement piece, right? So let me give you my thoughts on that.
Okay.
So I believe that there's this entitlement because a lot of things have been given to them. Okay. A lot of things have been given to them, all under the guise of, I want my child to have better than me or to do better.
Mm-hmm.
And grit, I get it. Look, there's nothing wrong with wanting your child to have better. But if you are always giving them the better, how are they going to get the better on their own? They're going to
Right.
constantly be dependent on you to give them the better. And you should be teaching them how to be successful world citizens
Exactly.
so that they could go out there and get it. And just like as Princess said, when times get hard, they will know how to govern themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So I believe part of that issue, and I only kind of came into this last year when I read this book on the vanishing American adult or something like that. But it basically was talking about how well, it didn't exactly say what the issues were, like to say it's this, and this. It
Mm-hmm.
highlighted certain things. And one of those specific things was a job. And when
Mm-hmm.
I say a job, take my father, for instance. He is one of 8. He lived in a house when he was a young boy with not only, and he's 81, okay, not only his family, so his parents and his siblings, okay. Now, not all 8 of them was born at that time, but at least 4 of them were, okay.
Mm-hmm.
So it was his parents and his siblings, his mom's brother's wife,
Wow.
So my grandmother's brother and his wife and their children and my great grandparents all lived in this house, a big house that was on a plantation that had no indoor plumbing. And each child in that house had a job. You talk to my cousin Whit, who's 81 years old, he was the water boy, which meant he had to go to the lake to go get water for the family. And if he did not go get the water, the family didn't have any water. You feel me? So
Mm-hmm.
there was a sense of responsibility that each child carried that was in that house,
Right.
right? So to
Yes.
me, that kind of grew them up a little bit. You feel me?
Mm-hmm.
Not to say that they didn't have a childhood and they didn't get to play and all of that, but they had chores. They had like real responsibilities that the family depended on.
Mm-hmm.
And we like the children
What
don't have to
what
do nothing.
chores?
They don't have to do nothing.
What chores? And I can and hopefully my sister don't get me for this, but she came 10 years after me, and to see the change in how it was raised, we had me and my brother, we had a list of chores that my mom would make sure was on the refrigerator. And by the end of the week, by the end of the day, if they're not done, when she get home, she's getting you up out of bed with a little encouragement to go and get those tasks done. And she's been a little lenient with my sister, but that
I'm
it,
t- but I'm telling you, it's more of that. I think that is a huge contributing factor to that whole entitlement piece.
mhm. To the point where my grandmother, she's 92 now. She actually still stays in the house on the plantation that she once worked on. When we were going
Wow.
to grandmother's house, she had an outhouse, wash house. We had to go down the road and pick pecans to get the little allowance that we
Right.
got to spend. And by the time I was in 12th grade, I was working. That sense of going out and get it. My mom made sure that we had what we need and what we wanted,
Right.
but she also instilled that sense of at some point you're gonna have to go and get it yourself. I'm gonna train you up and how you should do it. I'm going to show you. She was a living example of hard work pays off. So now
Mm.
she's celebrating the future of her labor, and her baby boy's still out here working.
Yes, sir. All right. So listen, we are a little more than halfway through our conversation. For those of you who are just joining us, welcome. We are talking about empowering emerging adults. I am on with the Honorable Gary Russ Jr., who is not only a social worker, but he is also the mayor of the great city of Gretna, located in the county of Gadsden here in North Florida. So we have several comments. So let me get to some of
All right.
these. All right. I'm gonna get to your question, Dr. Monica, in just a moment. Rolanda has joined us. Thank you for being here. Uh, Lisa said teaching real coping and life skills. Absolutely. That's exactly what I'm talking about, Lisa.
Mm-hmm.
Kiosha has joined us. Thank you for joining us, Kiosha. She's here in Tallahassee. She said, "Uh-oh, I arrived during a neck roll by Nicole." Yes, you did. 'Cause, listen, I'm tired. I'm tired. I'm tired. All right, Monica Roberts giving you some love, Mayor Russ. And Princess said that part. Unstable teachers teaching a big issue. All right. And my mom said, yes, you're both right. Dr. Umar Donald said Dr. Umar has been on campus since Monday. He stated that there are many conditions to the preschool to prison pipeline, like the poor nutrition and chemical loaded foods, no positive daddy role model, dollar directed incentive to put children in special ed, music, and nonsense lyrics also. Whew, that's a loaded.
And that's very
It's
loaded.
it's a lot. So agree.
Mm-hmm.
Many of those things that you have mentioned, Donna, are definitely contributing factors. So it's not a one done, and this is
At
just the
all.
beginning of a conversation. So yes, agreed, agreed, agreed. And then all right, I think that was it. All right, so let me go back. So we talked about the entitlement piece. We talked about them processing it. So I'm gonna go back to Dr. Monica's question. She said, "How do we help teachers deal with their own issues so they can help the kids?" Ooh.
The first step is, again, making that space for them to be okay to acknowledge that there is a problem. And I think that comes to the systems in which we educate our kids. It's time out for us to still have the mindset that educator may have had in 50 years. Or when I left elementary school in 2000, I was taught in a way that there were certain expectations, but this generation of students are not responding to that, almost in a sense very authoritative type of teaching, versus allowing them again to be able to have open dialogue in a respectful manner, to be able to process themselves so that they can then see the human in you. So it's allowing a space for the adults to be able to process themselves. That comes to that leadership, that comes to that self care and that self awareness. We do have a lot of young teachers who see these behaviors and it's like, oh my God, it's you're not gonna talk to me like that. And you also have these very seasoned educators that say, this is my classroom. You're going to learn like this. We're going to do this, and this is what I'm going to expect. And both of those have to be tailored to appreciate and compensate for this different way of delivery. So self awareness is key to the adults being able to have the open mindset. That's my word, mindset. We have to change the way we see, perceive, and respond to things, and particularly students, because they have so much access to so much. When I graduated in 2007, Facebook, you had to have an invitation from someone already on Facebook, plus a college email in order to log into Facebook. So happened I was dual enrolled, so I had a TCC email in high school, but now all you need is Wi-Fi and some kind of number, and you on, and you
Yep.
have access to so much. And again, it goes back to we we need a comprehensive community needs assessment, and to tackle what Mr. Donald said, all of those issues, we won't be able to do it one by one. We're going to have a social worker lens and tackle multiple situations in multiple systems so that in the end we have the end product that we want, and that is a conscious, productive society.
Mm. Yeah. So I wrote down comprehensive community needs assessment. So I know that some the within the health sector, health meaning like the hospital system, they do a community needs assessment, a community health needs assessment, which is
Mhm.
called the China report. But I think some other types of assessment again per sector need to be done as well, as you have stated. BK said allowing teachers to have a mental day off or maybe provide therapy for teachers. Whew, yeah, I think that is a great point. I think that is important. A friend of mine also is very attuned with ACEs, adverse childhood experiences, and came up with an educational ACEs. Mhm.
Wow, interesting.
Yeah, and recognize that a lot of educators also have had their own adverse childhood experiences. So, engaging with the young people, especially if they have untreated traumas, can be triggering for them.
For them, most
Mhm,
definitely.
mhm. And so, in this day and age of teachers not being able to do a number of things that that was allowed when I was coming up.
I
um,
remember the bee stinger is what my fifth grade teacher called
that's
it.
what your teacher called it.
The
The
bee
bee
stinger.
stinger. I like that term. Listen, it was the paddle, and it was wood, and it was hanging up on the wall, and I didn't want no parts of it
You
at
know,
all.
when you saw it, it was on
Mm,
and
mm,
popping.
mm,
And I
mm,
think
mm,
the
mm.
kids and students, they want a sense of structure,
Absolutely. They're
and
not gonna
that
tell you that, but they do.
and they do. And I think developing relationships and being in the classroom, I think that going back to Dr. Hayes' question, developing relationships with the students as if they're human is very important
Mhm.
because even though they may be 11, 12, 13, 18, they still have had their own experience in life, and you and we cannot take that for granted because that is how they have learned to respond to negative stimulus that come to them in their life. And if you coming at me like you said, if I as an educator have aces where I was yelled at growing up and a student is experiencing that at home and me as an adult yell at the student and the student yell back, I'm going to be triggered and the student more than likely is going to be triggered and we're just going to have a fiery match.
Listen,
But and again, going back to Dr. Hayes' question, the educators, the adults, still have to remember that we are the adults. We should have more reign on our feelings and emotions
right?
than this 12, 13, 18-year old that may be sitting in front of us. So
Mhm.
again, it goes back to that self-awareness piece. We as adults, on top of all the things that we experience, if we're in education, if we're interacting with certain populations, we have to be able to fine tune responses, reactions. That's where we may need to get a therapist. We may need to get a journal. We may need
Yes,
to take a trip. We may need
yes,
to meditate. But
yes,
we when we get behind the desk in front of those students, we are tasked with helping to develop them into productive members of society. And that's what I told my students because my last 2 years in the classroom, I taught civics.
mm,
So civics in the real world and civics in my class and how you carry yourself on campus is all the same.
mm,
I'm preparing you for real life. When you break the law, there's going to be a consequences. When you break my rules, there's going to be a consequences.
yes,
When you don't, and one of the things that I teach in civics is ignorance of the law does not negate the consequences that come with breaking that law.
yep,
So you're going to take the time now to listen and take in what I'm saying. And if it'll hit you by the time you 18, 19, maybe even earlier, now
right.
we're seeing manifestation of a lot of these aces much earlier, in my opinion,
Mm.
than we did in previous generations because of so much access to not human relations and not our old fashioned human relations, but interactions, I would call them.
Well, let me just say this, right? So ACEs is not a new thing. And if
No.
you all aren't familiar with ACEs are, Google it, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's real. But I think because, well, I think a couple of things. One, I think that I think that integration has is a contributing factor to our, and particularly Black folks, some of the lack of resilience that we may experience now. Because when we couldn't go everywhere, we were a stronger community.
Mm-hmm.
And while there were things going on in the community that would fall on that ACE list of activities, we again were together, and
Yes.
we were closer, more communal, what have you, looking out for one another. So I think that is another kind of huge contributing factor that is not being talked about. Like people aren't
Right.
really talking about that, but like that's big. Okay.
Mhm. And
Um,
being from Gadsden County, I had the lived experience. My mother, my aunts, uncles, grandparents. At one point, it was very segregated. At one point, African Americans couldn't cross certain roads, couldn't hold certain offices, couldn't be in certain spaces. And
mhm.
going back to what you just said, now that we have access to all of this, I think in some form or fashion, we have become complacent. I'm mayor. I've made it. I can I can sit at the behind the dais. I can sign this ordinance, and I don't need anybody else. And until we change our mindset, not necessarily the actions that our ancestors had, but once we get back to we are one kind of mindset where we're focused on collective issues,
Yes.
we are going to continue to see the breakdown of the black community. And
Mhm.
I'm just so passionate about it because one, with the history of Gaston County, one of the one county within the state, majority African American. At one point, it was Fort Gaston, which was a Confederate fort for the Confederate Army when they lost the Civil War. At one point, it covered from Apalachicola and included Tallahassee. So the fact that it's so much history and culture, not only in the land, because Gaston County has some rich land, and we can see
Right.
now a lot of that development. And I'm moving into mayor's talk now. That economic development, that community development, is inevitably headed our way. Northwest Florida is the last portion of in my opinion, the state that has that ready land. And if you're in the business of bringing some business, check out the big city of Gretna. but, but we have to prepare our minds to be
Yeah.
able to have that conversation and be okay with saying maybe I need to change this. Maybe if I did this like this, maybe the change would be a little more effective. Maybe if I listen to this teenager, he has a little more insight on how to handle those hard situations than me as an adult. But am I giving it space?
Indeed. Great comment. So we got a number of folks that have chimed in. The woman of steel has joined us, Miss Leslie Steele. She said some of the teachers are very close in age to the students in high school. That is
So that's
true.
Miss PIO for Gaston County.
PIO for Gaston County and one of my dear friends. Eric Sewell in Pensacola, thank you for joining us, Eric. He said in far too many cases, we put children in positions of adult situations and circumstances make them to
Mhm.
go to school and interact with the world, but to do so from a child's perspective.
Ooh, that's a heavy hitter.
That is a
That's
heavy
a
hitter.
heavy hitter.
Hmm. Yep, great comment, Eric. Thank you for sharing that. And Lisa said, I love this conversation. Yes, teachers have triggers too. There should be counseling services for teachers in the school as well. Also, agreed. And we got Dr. Kendra Mitchell on. She said, I work diligently to work with my students in building community in my classroom. And she is a professor at FAMU.
Oh yes.
So, whew, feel like just like get just the tip of the iceberg with this one, because again, there's it's a lot of moving parts, y'all. A lot of
Hmm.
moving parts. But as she has stated, building a community is very important. I've taken some mental health first aid training, and
Hmm.
they say the number one thing that prevents a child from going through with death by suicide is having a trusted adult that they can talk to. And
Yeah.
so you who is watching this video, who is on this live, may be that trusted
That
adult.
trust. Oh, yeah.
And so don't take that for granted, right? Because these emerging adults that we are talking about tonight, they need us. And we need them.
We do.
We need them because as we get up in age, we're not going to be able to do as much. We're not going to want to do as much. And so we are going to be looking to them to do these things, lead, to be the mayor of Gretna.
Right. And think about it. We have in our community, I'm particularly talking about Black communities, the electricians, the plumbers, the carpenters, the construction owners. They are our old uncles who are phasing out of those fields. So we're going to have to cultivate these adults, because one thing about it, they want their quick money. They will use their hands. So once we cultivate those skills, and I think we mentioned this in our previous conversation, those soft
Yes,
skills
soft skills.
and interpersonal relationships. That is, from my opinion, I think that is one of the biggest struggles for this population. Is maybe because they haven't seen it, is communicating with others, especially when we disagree.
Yes.
That is one
Oh,
of the most heated spaces, when they disagree or don't see the perspective of the person that they're coming to. And again, it keeps going back to what you're providing right now. Once that space is cultivated and they're able to go in and express themselves, like on Saturday, the Tallahassee Trainers Organization is hosting the men's mental health. I was able to attend the first one. I haven't been to the last two, but that's a space for a young boy, a young male, an adult, and an adult to open up and express. And I think that is an awesome example of how we need to be able to provide that space for them to have the conversations and be transparent to a point where they can see themselves in us. And if we are honest with ourselves, we may see a little bit of ourselves in them.
That part. So when you said soft skills, interpersonal relationships, and disagreeing, I call it disagree without being disagreeable.
Oh, yes.
Yes, because just because we disagree don't mean we have to fight, physically fight.
Right.
We don't have to call each other out, out.
Say names.
We don't have to be threatening nobody. You ain't got to do all of that. We just don't agree on this issue. On this issue,
On
not
this
that,
issue.
right? Not that we are gonna disagree on every issue, but we just don't agree on this one.
On that issue.
Okay. Tommy said, I often remind young men in my organization that my role is not to give advice, but to mentor. I remind them good mentorship needs time. So let's take the journey to become a leader together. Ooh, I love that, Tommy. Thank you for sharing.
Definitely takes time.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I would say sometimes we may fail because we don't allow the time to carry itself out so that we can see it manifest.
Yes.
We say, oh, we gave them that nugget, but we don't see it changing. And that's where we as the adults are going to have to take the time to allow it to blossom. We can't put a seed in the ground and expect for tomorrow to have some collard greens.
So there is a word that says one plants, one waters, but God gives the increase. So all we are doing is planting and watering. That's all we're doing. We may not even see the little thing come up out of the ground. We may not even see it blossom and bloom. All we are doing is planting and watering. And we got to be happy with that.
Exactly. And that's the adults we want to see so much.
The adults. The
adults want to see
y'all
so
need
much.
to just be happy with planting and watering, okay?
Yep.
All right. Dr. Monica, we need to educate our communities that reaching out for help is critically important. Amen. RJ Black said amen. I think I see Miss Black sometimes in the line dance class. Hey there.
Oh, yeah, with the Gaston seniors.
Yes. All right. D Jackson is on the live.
All right,
Thank
Lady
you.
D.
Lady D, appreciate you being on here. Kendra said, that's the way I live. Yes. Planting and watering and being happy with that. Yes, yes, yes. Gotta be. Gotta be, gotta be, gotta be. Yes. Rakia said seed time and harvest. Indeed.
Yeah.
Indeed. But again, recognize we may not see it and it's
See the
okay.
harvest.
All we gotta do is just continue planting and watering and believing that, you
Right.
know, these seeds will come to fruition.
Yeah. And a lot of these
We gotta
students
leave it
and
to God. The rest of that we
right.
gotta leave to God.
And a lot of them have seen so many people plant, water, and leave with no faith and no belief that they could change. And that's and I've seen it. A lot of the students sense that and they put their own roadblock up. I'm not gonna open up to anybody. You
Yeah,
so it goes back to his name, the point of allowing the time
yeah,
because so many students and children have been hurt in regards to relationships with adults
yeah.
in so many different ways, so many different times. We are
Mhm.
going to have to allow the time before them to even open up. It may
Right.
take, as a social
Trust.
worker or a teacher, it may take you a whole year before that student to say, Mr. Russ, thank you. I
Mhm.
heard you back in August when you said
Right.
that. I know it's May now, but thank you
Mm.
for telling me that.
Yeah.
And as the adults, we're gonna have to again allow that space and time, and not always be so eager to see the harvest to be say like, yeah, that was that was my mentee. I did that.
Mhm.
He been I've been mentoring him versus just sitting back and watching it blossom and grow.
Indeed, indeed. D said my first teaching job, I was maybe 3 years older than the high schoolers I taught. They respected me day one. Yeah, I mean, that's great. You gotta definitely command that respect.
Yep. And once you give it, they're
Yeah,
very open
yeah.
to giving it back. It may take a little time for others, but we have to give what and I'm big on energy. What we put out into the universe, into our space, it's
Mhm.
gonna come back.
Yeah.
And we gotta be okay with what we put out and what we get back.
Mhm. Indeed. Lisa said planting and watering, absolutely. And Coach Merv is in the house. Hey, Coach
All right,
Merv.
coach.
He said, that's right. We have to get to the plateau of latent potential. If we are patient, there will be some growth. I recommend the book Atomic Habits. It's a game changer. Yes.
Atomic habits.
Yes. Atomic Habits. Look at you writing notes. I
Oh,
love it.
I love books. Yeah.
All right, cool. Thank you for that comment, Coach Merv. All right. Whew. I don't know if we got through it all. I don't think we did, but it's
I think we got through enough for the conversation that was needed.
indeed. And I think we
Mhm.
hit points that we wanted to. So
Yes,
I'll be
ma'am.
satisfied with that. So I will give you, and ooh, I didn't do my job. I will give you an opportunity to give some closing remarks and then share how folks can connect with you.
All righty. Well, again, thank you for the opportunity to be on your platform and to bring up and to start conversations about a topic that is dear to me, empowering emerging adults. Because thinking back to the time when I was emerging as an adult, I had a lot of experiences that I held to myself because I felt none of the adults would understand or had a space to be okay with expressing myself. So as we move forward and as we continue to cultivate spaces, to develop programs, to develop initiatives, let's begin to take in consideration that we have a whole block of individuals who needs our attention, who needs our support, who needs our love. And that starts with open conversation, making sure that we not only are leading those conversations, but we're listening, being an active leader. I mean, active listener, making sure that we take the time to actually appreciate the perspective of these emerging adults. And once we hear, once we listen, Let's begin to model the lifestyle that we hope that they will one day strive to. That's being respectful of other adults. That is maintaining our emotions in those heated incidents. That is being an example and letting them make their own choices.
Mhm.
As we talked about planting and watering, we can't be so selfish not to allow them to make the mistakes, to make the choices, because I'm a prime example of the mistakes that I made in life have prepared me for the success that I am experiencing now. We've
Mhm.
all had those mistakes. We've all had those moments, and we've had the opportunity to learn from them. They may be experiencing something that we experienced in adulthood much earlier than we did. So cultivating that space, giving them that listening ear, sometimes having that silent tongue and that faithful heart, we are setting ourselves up for success by planting and watering. So thank you for the opportunity.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right. So tell folks how they can connect with you.
All right, I am on Facebook. That is Gary Rush Jr., MSW. Instagram, Mr. G from the G, Mister Thg. And also on LinkedIn, Gary Rush Jr., MSW. I'm open to looking to connect with individuals again as not only as mayor of the city of Gretna and volunteer coordinator for Gaston County Public Schools. One of the tasks that I'm tasked with is engaging the community. So we're always looking for community partners to help to bring about a successful and productive society and conducive to a learning and growing for our students.
Love it, love it, love it, love it. All right. So you see Gary's information scrolling across the bottom of the screen. Absolutely. Please do connect with him. Doing some great and wonderful things. And so we need to keep this conversation going. I'm gonna just say that. So we need to figure out another time. Maybe we can do a panel to have some emerging
Yes.
on with us and some adults. So pull this conversation together
Yes,
and
ma'am.
figure all of that out, or at least start to try to figure it out and see how we can come together and collaborate. So I'm very open to that, or even
Oh,
have
most definitely.
something in the community where we can have that open dialogue. So
Yes, ma'am. We're
let's yeah,
and I
let's do.
gotta join you for one of those line dance classes too.
Ah, plug that in just a minute. So I want to thank everybody who was on here tonight. I love the energy. For those of you who are new to the platform, I know we had a number of guests tonight, guest viewers. I invite you to subscribe to the Conversations with Nicole YouTube channel. We are live on Mondays and Wednesdays at 8:30 p.m. Our focus is on mental health and wellness in Black and Brown communities, and just encouraging us to get our checkup from the neck up and to be our best selves. So please like, share, subscribe. Listen, we need those views and we need y'all on here, having these conversations. But I do want to announce, like you were just saying, we got line dance class tomorrow. Myself and Jokeisha Horn. Shout out to the Gadsden County Elder Affairs and Gadsden County Senior Citizens Foundation. We do line dance every other Thursday at the Senior Center. Uh, well, we'll be actually at the Quincy Recreation Center
Okay.
tomorrow. So that's 122 North Grave Street, 7 to 8:30 p.m. and it's absolutely free. So we calling all the people from Gadsden County
Yes, and county.
out and join the fun. And anybody can come. So if y'all want to come over from Tallahassee, by all means, please do. But we have a good time. So y'all check us out, and want to wish everybody a happy Good Friday, happy Resurrection Day coming up this weekend. Y'all be safe out there. We will be back here next week, God willing, 8:30 p.m. on Mondays and Wednesdays. And again, thank you all, and thank you, the Honorable Mr. Rush.
Thank you so much. And before we part ways, on Friday, May 3rd, the
Go
city of
ahead.
Gretna is hosting our annual May Day celebration. And this year, our headliner is the one and only King of Swing, Tucker. So come on out. It's a free concert, free coolers, chairs, family oriented. It's located at the Springfield Multi-Purpose Center, located on Highway 90. As soon as you enter into the big city of Gretna, so come on out and join the mayor and the commissioners and the citizens of Gretna and Gaston County. Friday, May 3rd, Gretna May Day.
All right, that sounds like fun. I'm at the slide through.
Come on through.
I love it. I love it. All right, y'all. Have a great evening, and we'll see y'all next time. Peace.